Hi, best friends. I'm Tabby.
And I'm Caitlin, and today we will be discussing The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. This
Um,
book
s-
is a love-hate situation for me. I thought there were things about it that are really, really cute. And there are things about it that made me very annoyed.
yeah, so it's like, I'll talk about this later, but like it did trick me the first time I read it. And the second time I was like, must be witchcraft because this was a different book.
Yeah, and I feel like there are probably moods I could be in where I would enjoy it more. Sometimes you just want to sit down and watch like a Hallmark movie. And like that's the
I've
vibe of this
never
book.
wanted to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes I want to sit down and watch a Hallmark movie. But like when I was reading this book, I was not into it at the time.
That's fair. That's fair. I wasn't the second time. So as always, we will start off with a synopsis of the book, and we'll also read the back of the book. Are we gonna read the back of the book? Yeah,
Yes.
let's fucking do it. Let's read the back of the book and we will hop into our synopsis.
Yeah, and I will say the book itself is just very aesthetically pleasing.
It's very cute.
Yes, I love it so much. It's very cute. The colors are beautiful. Okay, so the back of the book. A wedding in Spain, an infuriating man. 3 days to convince her family she's actually in love. Catalina Martin desperately needs a date to her sister's wedding, especially since her little white lie about her American boyfriend has spiraled out of control. Now, everyone she knows, including her ex and his fiance, will be there and eager to meet him. She has only 4 weeks to find someone willing to cross the Atlantic and aid in her deception. New York to Spain is no short flight, and her raucous family won't be easy to fool. Enter Aaron Blackford, her tall, handsome, condescending colleague, who surprisingly offers to step in. She'd rather refuse. Never has there been a more aggravating, blood-boiling, and insufferable man. But Catalina is desperate, and as the wedding draws nearer, Aaron looks like her best option. And she begins to realize that he might not be as terrible in the real world as he is at the office.
So basically, you don't even need to read the book after reading the back of it. That was essentially it.
You're not wrong. It leaves nothing to the imagination.
That's it.
But again, like predictability is something that again is like expected in like Hallmark movies and
And a
Hallmark
rom-com.
stories. And yeah, like that's just like the vibes. You're supposed to know what's coming. It's comforting. It makes
They're
you feel,
not giving us plot twists in a rom-com.
yeah. And if they do, it's probably upsetting and you probably wish that they didn't.
We hate that. Don't do that. I read these to keep myself mentally not ill. So the book opens up with the man's voice telling the main character that he will be her date to the wedding. She's facing her best friend Rosie and asks her if this is really happening or if she's hallucinating. The main character, Catalina or Lena for short, awkwardly makes Rosie communicate with the man behind her, Aaron Blackford, in an attempt to annoy him and get him to leave, like a child.
Like a child. And that's a common thing for Lena. We'll see. So Lena and Aaron proceed to argue about whether she is desperate enough to take him as her date to her sister Isa's wedding in Spain. She is the maid of honor, and her ex-boyfriend Daniel is the best man, and recently engaged. Aaron leaves Lena to consider his offer and tells her not to be late for their work meeting later that morning.
Lena relives the memory of the one time she was ever late to a meeting. Aaron was the one presenting, and she accidentally spilled coffee all over his handouts for the presentation. Ever since that day, Aaron teases her about being late and moves the coffee away from where she is seated during their meetings. Lena is extremely annoyed by the fact that he won't let her live it down.
Which honestly, it just sounds like he's flirting with you, but you're
Like, that's all I've ever asked for. Like,
so Lena goes to her meeting with her peers. So there's Aaron, her work nemesis, of course, Hector, who she considers to be like an uncle to her, Gerald, who's a dickhead, and Kabir, who's the most recent member of their team, who just wants everyone to get along. Kabir explains that their boss, Jeff, has chosen Lena to plan and run a meet and greet event for potential clients. Lena is frustrated due to her already busy work schedule and the fact that she has no experience in public relations. Gerald basically tells her that she can do it because it's just a party and women know how to host parties. He goes on to say that she won't even need to do much because she's attractive and most people will like her regardless of the quality of the event. So Lena's furious, but none of her peers stand up for her against Gerald.
Gerald,
Fuck you,
classic,
Gerald.
classic white man in the workplace. So Lena is working late to try and get an agenda plan for the event she's planning. She's hungry because she had a small lunch, but decides she needs to stay and get her work done. She even turns down a meetup with Rosie at her favorite coffee shop. Lena is giving herself a little pep talk out loud when Aaron shows up to her office. He comes over to see what she's planned so far and tells her that he can help because he has prior experience in planning events. Lena watches him suspiciously, not sure why he's offering her to help, and realizes he's kind of hot. And then she mentally reprimands herself for checking him out. They argue a bit, and Lena expresses her disappointment that he didn't stand up for her against Gerald's sexist comments. He offers her a homemade granola bar since he knows she's hungry, and they continue to work together for the evening.
We
Our
stand a man
little,
who can bake.
yeah, our little patisserie.
Lena is at work again when her mother calls. They discuss what dress she will be wearing to the wedding and whether her boyfriend will be matching her. Her mom thinks she has a boyfriend because she lied about it a while back when she felt pressured about being single at her sister's
Crazy.
wedding. For some reason, my mom
Her
believes
mom
in a
thinks she has a
lie.
boyfriend because I did lie and tell her I have a boyfriend.
So Lena does get the chance to set things straight when her mom asks if they're still together and if she's bringing him as her date to the wedding, but she lies again and says he's coming. Her mom asks her boyfriend's name right as Aaron walks into her office. So when Lena says Aaron's name out loud, her mom thinks that that's the name of her American boyfriend.
So later, Lena is explaining all this to Rosie, who thinks it's pretty humorous. Rosie also tells Lena that she has a crush on Lucas, her cousin, and wants her to set them up together. And Lena's like, no, my cousin is a loser. Then that's the last we ever hear about Lucas. And Aaron shows up again because he do be popping up all over the place. And Rosie tries to dip out and leave them alone. Lena panics and then follows Rosie out of the room, refusing to speak to Aaron about whatever he wanted to say because that is how adults work in the workforce.
Because again, she does act like a 14-year-old girl. So later in the week, Lena is leaving work and it's pouring down rain. And a car pulls up and it's Aaron offering her a ride. And she's like, no, I'm not going to get in your car, of course, because she's ridiculous. But eventually, like after arguing while she's standing in the rain, she does get into his car. And then they chat on the way to her apartment. And when they pull up, like Lena's like, she can tell he's lingering. And so she's like, do you need to like use my bathroom or something? And he's like, no, I actually just wanted to talk to you about something. And so he again offers to be her date to the wedding and tells her he also needs a date for something so they could like strike a deal. And so they shake on it. They're like, okay, sounds good. And so he tells her that he'll pick her up the next night and she needs an evening gown to go to this date.
So the thing that's like absolutely crazy to me is that he is like, yes, this event I need you to go to is about the same as me flying to Spain for
Well,
a
it's because
week.
he's like desperate to
I know.
actually.
It's just like that's bizarre. Um,
And Lena's like, yeah, you're right. They're pretty
he's
even.
like, yeah, that makes sense. So Aaron picks her up for the date and tells her they're going to a charity event for rescue animals. Aaron explains that he played college football and helps his cause every year. He also explains that the event is actually an auction for young, attractive men such as himself, and Lena's job is to make sure that she wins the bid on him. She spends the evening getting to know some of the people from Aaron's life and bids on Aaron during the auction. Later, they are dancing together and things get kind of tense because, of course, they're both low key into each other. Also, something really cute about that whole scene is that she did bid on this precious, precious old man to like build his confidence and like ended up getting this lady to spend like a shit ton of money on him so she could ride on his boat.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the funniest scene.
Yeah, that was really good. And then another thing that happens during that whole shebang is she meets
Like
Aaron's
one of his
weird
best
friend,
friends.
but he's weird. I don't like the vibes.
And he
Also,
hits on her.
yeah, immediately, even though she showed up with Aaron. And then also I think she does learn a little bit that Aaron has like an obviously strained relationship with his dad. I think that's the first time that gets brought up.
Yeah.
So anyway, back at work, an announcement is made that Aaron is up for a promotion, which will make him Lena's boss. So Lena tells Aaron that he can no longer be her date to the wedding because of how it will look now that he'll be in charge of her, at work. And so later in the week, Lena is working late. She hasn't been eating because she is an absolute ding dong who is trying to lose weight by not eating for her
My
sister's
little
wedding.
skinny legend.
Yeah, so bad idea, but she does it and she ends up fainting in the hallway because she has hypoglycemia. So luckily Aaron is still at work too, so he finds her right away and carries her to his office. And then later, like, he's driving her home and she's still sleeping for some reason.
I've never passed out that long when I've had like a
You
little
should
spell.
not lose consciousness that long. So we're just gonna say maybe she was like sleepy as well and she was napping. And so her phone is popping off because her sister is worried about her. And so he answers the phone and then like it further solidifies the lie of her having an American boyfriend named Aaron because he's answering her phone for her.
Makes sense. So the time has come to travel to Spain, and they have had a little bit of like a flirty vibe going. And Lena and Aaron will be staying together in her family's very small apartment, which is the best fucking thing ever. This is my favorite part of this whole book.
Same.
Um, and so Lena shows Aaron to a room with a twin size bed. Is like, yeah, here you go, you 6'4" giant. Enjoy. Like,
Because she doesn't want to sleep in the same room as him.
yes. And so Aaron pulls Lena onto the bed to prove that it's ridiculously small and then breaks it. So it collapses under his weight. And then their nosy cousin arrives and announces that she's going to be staying in the apartment with them.
And so Lena's like, great. Because this is the cousin that like on the flight there, she was like, if anyone's gonna find us out, it's gonna be Charo. So like keep your mouth shut around her, and then they're staying in the same apartment.
Faro.
So the wedding party and guests get together to participate in the wedding cup, which is like a team bride versus team groom game of soccer.
Her sister and her sister's fiance are like fucking nuts.
Oh yeah, they're very competitive. Like I would love to hang out with them. They sound super fun. And then Lena's ex-boyfriend Daniel is the brother of the groom, so he's the best man. Of course, he's there. And that was the main reasons, if you recall, that Lena felt pressured to bring a date to the wedding in the first place. And so at this point, Lena hasn't really given us details about what went down, but we know that he's a college professor and that he's the one who dumped her.
He's
And
also
so,
older.
yes, he's older. And so that's all the information we have so far. But Aaron picks up on the vibes and he's like, oh, that's Daniel. Okay. So he starts turning up the PDA to help make Daniel jealous. And Lena's like, wow, that's kind of nice.
That's really nice.
I kind of like that, but we're just pretending. And so by the end of the afternoon, Lena is like kind of struggling with her developing feelings for Aaron because she's like, well, he's literally just acting because this is part of our deal. So I need to like quit being into it.
And also during like their little soccer match, we find out that Aaron Blackford is actually built like a fucking god.
Oh, yeah.
So that was cool. Anyway, so that evening at dinner, Issa is teasing Lena and Aaron about how in love they are, and Daniel's super uncomfortable. So they
Oh.
cry about it. And they also during this time they're like, "How did you fall in love with each other?" And they're like,
Well, we work together, you
"How
see.
did we?" So they go to the bar after, and Lena gets pretty drunk while Aaron remains nearly sober, and they get to know each other better. And so the vibes are like super flirty. We love it. We love to see it. And when they get back to their room, Lena is trying to remain calm, but she's like super attracted to him. And he is getting like very vulnerable with her and admits that he wants to be with her for real and always has. And they have a super like like just out of nowhere, unprovoked. So they have this really tense moment where they want to kiss each other, but then they hear Lena's cousin in the apartment and they snap back to reality. Oh, there goes
Whoa.
gravity. And Aaron admits that he's glad he didn't kiss her yet because when he does, it's going to be real.
I will say that
So
like
that whole scene was fake.
this scene, I get what it was going for, but it did like I mean, I'll talk more about these kind of things later, but it did make me uncomfortable because I'm just like picturing Aaron's just like, yeah, like if we were together for real, like I would mac the heck out of you right now. And then Lena's just like heavy breathing and not replying. Like
Yeah, no, she's like, my skin is flushed and my breaths are heavy. And it's like, what the fuck?
She's literally like not saying anything back, and it's so weird. Anyway.
And also she's drunk.
Yeah, she's drunk and he's not. So that adds a layer. So they spend the next day with the family again, just celebrating the wedding. And Lena is positive she wants to be with Aaron. She's like, at least she's positive that she wants to sleep with him at this point. She's like, I'm physically attracted to this man. But she's still hung up on the fact that they couldn't logistically be together because of the work thing. And so she's like, that's a horrible idea. And so she goes to the restroom because she's like, they're, talking about her and Aaron's relationship again. She gets uncomfy. And then she runs into Daniel in the hall. And he's like, I just wanted to say sorry, by the way. Like, I don't think I ever said that. And she's like, no, you didn't. Thanks. And then he's like, but are you really happy? Like, is he really making you happy? You don't look happy. And she's like, hey, I'm not having this conversation with you. And so she doesn't even go pee. She just goes back to the table. And that night, Lena and Aaron are like in their room together. And so she finally admits like what happened with Daniel. So he was her physics professor and she took his class for a year, like 2 semesters. And then they were like kind of into each other the whole time, but they didn't officially date until she was done with his class. But rumors spread very quickly that Lena seduced her professor for good grades, and Daniel broke up with her because of it. And she was so mortified that she literally left the country when she graduated, and she
Spain just simply was not big enough for this burden to bear, and so she moved to the United States.
Which, I mean, it's not that big of a country, so
I would flee the country for less. So I get it.
Same, and I have, and I will. Just
kidding. And I'll do it again. So the wedding reception. Okay, so we're at the wedding. Beautiful wedding. Everything goes off without a hitch.
The wedding happens in like 2 pages.
It is like this super hyped up event that it happens. And so at the wedding reception, there's a kiss cam, and it of course lands on Lena and Aaron, and she gets super flustered because she does not want their first kiss to be in front of everybody. She's like, my God, how revolting. And luckily the camera just moves on to her parents. And so Aaron takes her somewhere private, and they're like out by this ivy covered wall. It's giving like Princess Diaries vibes. And they have their first kiss, which starts off super sweet, but quickly turns saucy, but also strange. Like borderline uncomfortable. And they finally get back to their room, and that night they finally sleep together with some really cringy, dirty talk.
Yeah. I mean, everything about it is
just
tainted.
There is a 20-year-old condom involved in some terrible dirty talk.
So they fly home because the wedding happened. It's over. Okay. They leave and
no one cares.
Yeah, they're like, congrats. So Aaron, when they get back home, Aaron asks Lena to stay with him at his apartment. And so she does. And they agree that like when they get back to work, they can just talk to HR and they can disclose their relationship and explore whatever this is that they want to explore. So Aaron tells Lena that he's had feelings for her for a long time now, and she's like super into it.
But like while they're out one day, they happen to like see Gerald. They're getting street tacos, I guess, like these super hyped up fish tacos throughout this book. And they saw Gerald. And
I don't know if I think it was someone else who told Gerald.
Oh, it was one of Gerald's direct reports who saw them and told Gerald.
Yeah,
that they were
just innocently on a date.
Yes,
like, getting fish tacos,
getting food.
It's not like they were having sex in an alley.
They were having it on the table at the fish taco truck. And so anyway, back at work, Gerald has the nerve to immediately be like an asshole, and he accuses Lena of seducing Aaron to get advantages in the workplace. And so Lena stands up for herself, but she is really affected by these accusations because of, all the shit that went down with Daniel. It's giving her flashbacks.
She's like, I cannot flee 2 countries in my short
I don't
lifetime.
think Canada will take me. I don't know. um And so Aaron comes in to figure out what's going on, and Lena is so bothered by it all that she thinks it might be better to quit her job. Yes. She's a quitter. She is like
she needs new coping mechanisms for
she
sure.
is a flight risk is
She's
what
like,
she is.
Aaron, I think it would be best if I just quit and move
If I
to
just
Spain.
quit my job and I'm going to Puerto Vallarta, so I'll see you later. And so Aaron tells her that she can't do that, and then he tells her that he loves her after 3 days.
Yeah, and but whenever she was staying in his
But he's
apartment
loved her for longer than
before,
that.
right? Because whenever they got back from Spain, they were staying at his apartment. She was teaching him some words in Spanish, and like a 6-letter word, a 5-letter word. And then he was like, a 4-letter word, I'll earn my 4-letter word. And I was like, hey, bud,
man.
You're not even like officially a couple.
You haven't disclosed this to HR yet. Like, calm down, Dad.
So, anyway, after Aaron's declaration of love, Lena does distance herself for a few days. Understandable. And so after a few days go by, she's like, I think I also do love him because I miss him a lot. So she wants to go see him again, but she can't find him. And she ends up talking to Sharon from HR. We love Sharon. And Sharon's like, yeah, that's all fine and good that you guys want to date. That's fine. But you should file a formal complaint against Gerald because of all of his harassment. And so
also it's happened to other people.
Yeah, she's like, we need to take this man down. And so she's like, hey, Sharon, do you know where Aaron is? And she's like, yeah, actually, he had to fly home to see his dad because his dad has cancer and he's deathly ill in the hospital.
And I don't think you're allowed to disclose that, to be completely fair. Bad on you, Sharon. That's not very HR.
You at least shouldn't. That's really personal.
I don't think you can say that. I'm not sure. So Lena is devastated that Aaron felt he couldn't share this with her because of how open and loving and receptive that she has been to him.
And how clearly she's given him nothing but green lights.
She didn't push him away multiple times and call him names at work. And so she buys a ticket to the other side of the country. She just goes to every single hospital. And
I don't know. She finds them at some point.
And somehow, she finds the worst front desk person. Yeah, Mr. Blackford is here.
Yeah, his room number is.
You can't be doing that. And so she tells him that she wants to, basically she sits on his lap in this hospital, full on mauling this man in the cancer ward of a hospital, where people are quietly mourning their loved ones.
She's and tells what can I say? He's a hottie.
She was like, I flew across the country for you and I want to be with you. And I'm so sad that you couldn't tell me that your father is terminally ill. I've known you for 2 whole weeks. What the hell, Aaron? And so when his father is finally awake enough, he was like, I would love for you to meet my dad and have him meet my future bride.
My dad would love nothing more than a strange woman to come into his room.
2 minutes of lucidity to meet this stranger. And introduces Lena as the woman that he'd like to spend the rest of his life with.
And at this point,
this is also the first time he's seen his father in years.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys, you understand.
You should read the book. It's really good.
So that's the end, by the way, because the epilogue takes place 1 year later.
Yeah, that's it.
And at work, it turns out Gerald has quit, not been fired, I guess. And Rosie
he's paid with leave. Or
yeah, he's just walked out
leave with pay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it do be like that in real life. So Rosie was actually promoted to his position, which we love. And then Aaron and Lena, they're leaving work because they're about to have a family vacation. So Lena's family is actually flying to the US to stay in a vacation home all together. Aaron's dad has recovered from his time in the hospital and the relationship has been patched up, but he does still have active cancer. So at this point, they kind of expect him to have another year of life left. And then the book ends with Aaron like telling Lena that no matter what life throws their way, they have each other, so they're going to be all right.
The end. This was the most disjointed book I've ever read in my life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, it bounced around so many times.
It was everything but the kitchen sink in terms of popular
tropes. They weren't even well done.
We will definitely get into the specifics of those. And I will say, I am a sucker as well for some popular tropes. I love me some popular tropes. A lot of people do.
Pick two at most.
Yeah, pick one or two and actually see them through. I think that would be better. It would make for a more cohesive story. And yeah,
and we didn't do that here.
I know that she's probably not listening to this podcast, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
Elena, are you open to constructive feedback?
And I mean it so like genuinely, because there were so many aspects of this book that I did enjoy. So speaking of, what would you rate it?
The first time I read it, I would have given it a 9 out of 10. I was into this book. I also think maybe mentally I was not in a good place. And so after the second read through, probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe like 6.8.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like that goes back to though what I was saying about like sometimes you're just in the mood for something like this where it feels very upbeat.
It was also one of the very first rom-com books I've ever read. And so like I was coming straight off of ACOTAR, like Throne of Glass, and like I had just read It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and I was like, yeah, let's keep this rom-com train a rolling.
Yeah.
And so this was like the second ever rom-com book I've ever read.
And I do like that totally makes sense because I do love rom-coms. They're an absolute vibe, especially like on the days where I'm feeling like I need like a mood lifter, you know?
Yeah,
like
and it like definitely did
cutesy,
that.
Fluffy. Yeah, it is that. I agree.
I read it in a day, and that's great.
Oh, yeah, same. And there are many things I did like about this book, like I said. So I also would rate it about a 7 out of 10 because to me, it's like I liked it, but it was like average.
Yeah. I've read better since then.
Oh, yes, I have. And I think that even Elena Armas, like the more that she writes, I think she's obviously going to get even better at writing. So I have hopes for the future books by her. And overall, I did just feel like it was long-winded and could have benefited from some trimming.
Maybe an edit or two.
Yes, especially the beginning. Oh, the beginning was the hardest part for me to get through. Once they got to Spain, it was but
they didn't get to Spain until like
halfway through
like the end of the book. Like the first half of it, you're just like, I don't think I know what's quite going on here.
No, yeah, you're completely right. And so much of it was like her literally acting like a child, like a middle schooler.
Yeah,
and like running
so
from
immature.
him when he comes to the room. And it's like that doesn't really match up character-wise to her being like a super professional,
like boss babe
job. Yeah. So it's like that was disjointed. There's a lot more that's disjointed. So let's get into the characters. We'll start with Lena.
She was funny sometimes.
She is funny. Yeah.
I liked her inner monologue.
Yes. She had like a very fun like inner monologue that reminds me kind of my own, where it's just like very chaotic and literally like has a comeback for everything. Like I have learned to watch my mouth as I've gotten older. You used to get in trouble. You get in trouble too many times in your 9th grade literature class.
You sit in the
And
hallway one too many times.
because I was a good kid, but yeah, so I am always like I have a comeback for everything. And sometimes you just don't need to say it out loud. And I feel like yeah, Lena has that down too. She doesn't say a lot of it out loud, but she
She
is
thinks
very
it.
funny. Yeah.
Um, I didn't, I don't know. Like in terms of a female main character, like I do like the wit, but I hate it when like they are like the world is against me type
Yeah.
vibes. And I kind of think that's how she was to begin with, like just everything and anything this man could. And I get it, she felt like she had been done wrong, and she maybe was like the conversation she'd overheard. I
But
don't
it
know,
was
but
just
she's so whiny.
it was a bad first impression. And had she like confronted him about that and like
Everything could
given
have been
him the
avoided.
chance to like own up to it, but she didn't. And I get that that would be really uncomfortable and it's easier said than done, but like if you hear someone say something rude about you and they don't think that you heard it, freaking call them out. Be like, "Hey, I
And
literally overheard that."
internalize that and move on, because some people are not nice in your adult life.
That's true too. But if you do like feel like, hey, I could give them a chance, you should definitely give them the chance to own up to it. Maybe he had a really bad day. So I don't
He
think it's
also,
right
I
for
think,
him to
is
say
just
something
like
rude, but
painfully like socially stunted somehow
yeah, it was weird. It was weird for her to be like so mad at it a year
for
later.
so long.
Again, with her character, like they made it seem like she's so good at her job, but she's like underappreciated at work, and like they give her all this like stuff that's not actually part of her job description and blah blah blah. But like, I guess my issue with it is then comparing that to how she acts like socially, because she seems like she has the maturity again of like a
Like
14
a doormat.
and so I'm just like, how? And also, she was like supposedly a really good student in college and stuff too. But then she does things like starve herself for her sister's wedding. So she's
That's
skinnier.
in 4 weeks.
And it's just like those things, like, they don't really go together for me in my brain. And, but maybe I'm trying to make her too much of a caricature of a person. I don't know.
And then we have Aaron. Sweet, sweet Aaron. So Aaron gave me like what's his name? Adam Carlson vibes from
Mm-hmm.
the Love Hypothesis. And
Yeah.
I almost feel like Elena Armas took a page out of Allie Hazelwood's book of Weird Men,
Mm-hmm.
because she kind of does the same thing where she will create like this Adonis of a man, like just classically attractive, dark hair, whatever. But they just are the fucking weirdest people you will ever meet, and like don't have like a romantic bone in their body. And like, or
Yeah.
they do, but it's just like so cringy. Like it's so like
It comes
off.
out at the weirdest times.
Yeah, man. And they say the weirdest stuff. It's like, God, dude, like you
Yeah.
were so close. Like you were so close, like saying the perfect thing, but like you just had to like go and just be yourself and ruined it.
Yeah. And it is like, it's really funny because like Adam Carlson,
Let
like
me
they
put your
don't.
entire right boob in my mouth.
I'll never forget. But it's like they have like that one moment where they're like finally gonna sleep together and then they just like they come out like they've been watching the weirdest fucking pornos.
They have been watching like homemade porn on Pornhub, like.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I don't really like sleep with anyone. I haven't slept with anyone in a really long time. But then they act like that.
And it's like either you're lying or no, you're not lying. You're not lying. You maybe haven't, because you keep saying shit like that to women and they're like, I can't do this. And it's like, I just have a hard time believing that he's like this college athlete. Like he looks like that, and like you don't sleep with women.
I mean,
I guess.
I
It
guess
just, it's like wild to me. Like
it's not typical. I'll
it
say it's
is
not
like
typical.
your nerdy, like that's like the rom-com office man though. Cause like I said, it's how Adam Carlson is, it's how our man Aaron is, it's how like all of Allie Hazelwood's like other male characters are. Like that
Yeah.
is just like the thing. And like women on Book Talk eat that shit up.
Yeah, that doesn't make the character more attractive to me personally. But I think
It's so
it does
strange
for
to
some
me.
people. Yeah, it is interesting. But
But
I really think Aaron, he's obviously hot. Like the soccer game, he was kicking ass and taking names. He was doing it all shirtless. Um,
oh,
love
while not
that for
wearing
him.
clothes. Good for
Yeah.
you, Aaron.
Yeah, and Lena like walked out. She was like getting ready for bed, and he didn't have a shirt on because he was just gonna sleep in pants, and she was drooling. Her jaw hit the floor. So he's obviously beautiful. He's got that going for him.
I feel like their whole relationship, like it started off with them like really like starting to develop something, like opening up to each other, being vulnerable, and then like the entire second half of it, like whenever they slept together finally, like you lost all of that connection, and it's like they he only wanted to bang her.
Yeah, but he wants to bang her for life. So isn't that romantic?
How romantic, but like there was no other just like relationship building aspects to that. It's just like, yeah, we slept
They
together once and like I want you to move in now.
all that they did to like decide they wanted to be together forever is step one, they finally got comfortable enough where they trauma dumped on each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then step two, they just had some really weird, dirty sex. And they were like, you're it for
With
me, baby.
an ancient Egyptian condom.
Yeah, with a condom that was taken from the museum archives.
How unrealistic.
It's a condom that Aaron got like when they were handing out free condoms in
In
junior
college.
high.
And he's like, I've been saving this for a rainy day
Hey.
for someone special.
But I wanted this to be with that one special someone, and that's you, baby. Also,
Baby
the amount of
girl.
times he calls her baby, like unironically, I'm just like, oh, say something else every once in a while.
My sweet, sweet baby.
Yeah, like I'm okay with like baby unironically on occasion.
I think it's cute sprinkled in. Like I love that,
Again,
especially
yeah,
if you have like a character who like historically has not been like overly affectionate and
yes,
like they like accidentally call them baby. Love that shit. But
yes.
like when you overuse it like that, it's just like, God, you sound like the people I hate on
You
TikTok.
sound
Like,
like
baby.
oh yeah, that and also what's it? 365 days.
Yeah, yeah. Are you lost, BB girl?
Yeah, exactly.
They're coming out the second one. We are watching it.
Oh, of course I'll be watching. I'll be watching
Oh
all of
my
them.
God. Anyway, so some stuff that we like, because we didn't hate the whole book.
Right.
There was some stuff we enjoyed about this. Um, one thing that I really liked was her family. Her
Mm-hmm.
family was such like a bright spot of joy in this entire book. And like I think it was very refreshing, and you got to see like how like loving of a family she had in her upbringing. And I think Aaron really just like clung on to that. And I think that was a big reason for why he's like, yeah, bring me on in. Like, let's get married tomorrow. Like, I
He's
need these
like,
people in my
I
life.
need a family.
He's like, I don't actually have one of those. Thank you. And he even says that too. He's like, yeah, I fucking love this shit. And so
Yeah,
I loved her family. I love them so much.
I do too. I think my favorite of her family members is Charo.
Charles
Um,
funny.
I love her. She's hilarious. She's like unhinged, the
She's
perfect amount.
crazy.
The perfect amount of unhinged. I thought she was a great comedic relief. And there are so many things that like, okay, because sometimes whenever Lena was like trying to be funny or quirky, like it was the most cringy thing. Like it was giving Disney adult.
Yeah.
Um, and then like obviously you can write someone who's like genuinely funny because you wrote Charo. So like why you gotta do Lena like that?
Right.
I didn't like it. There was like one time that I say Disney adult, she straight up like he asked her how she was feeling when she had a hangover, and she was like I got ran over by a stampede of like whatever is in The Lion King.
Whatever killed Mufasa.
Whatever killed Mufasa. I don't fucking know because I'm not a Disney adult. And that's okay.
And I am not ashamed.
And then Erin's like, "Did you just reference a Disney movie?" And then they talk.
She's like, "Oh my God, do you watch Disney movies? Like
They're
my
like,
fucking soulmate.
You're not like other girls." Hair tucked behind.
Does the Demi
does the Demi
Lovato.
Ryan.
Demi Ryan, that's who it is.
I just did not like that. So yeah, there's that. But one thing I did love about Lena's inner monologue again, especially, is the bilingual narration.
Yeah.
And of course, the author herself is bilingual, and it adds an extra layer of like authenticity to this character. It makes this character feel real because like whenever she has like more emotional thoughts, they're usually in her native language. And I thought that was like so cute. It felt like I was watching like Jane the Virgin.
Love Jane the Virgin.
I do love Jane the Virgin. And it's like, for me, someone who is not fluent in Spanish, like I learned a lot too. So I really liked that. It made her feel more like a real person.
I'm a real girl. Some things that we disliked about the book, and we've covered some already, so we won't repeat them. The auction was personally one of my least favorite like chapters or like sections of the book, just
Agreed.
because like obviously like Aaron needed a way to like make this deal seem like he was also benefiting from it, but like first of all, I think it's weird that every year he's just part of like this male auction.
Yeah. Just going on a
also,
random date with someone.
They like introduce so many characters in this like part of the book that we never hear from again. Like his weird ass friend, who is like all up in Elena's business. And he's like, "I'd love to take you home if this stick in the mud won't." And it's like, why was that necessary?
Yeah. Inappropriate, especially if you think she's on a date with your good friend. Didn't love it.
And it's just like, we never talk about this again.
It was like weird because it was used as a tool to bring up the fact that he played college football.
And then his mom is dead and his dad
is like dying.
And
it's like, well, why couldn't we have done that in another way? Like, why couldn't you have been a date to someone else's wedding or like,
right.
Like, I don't know, another charity event that didn't involve him being auctioned off.
Like a male prostitute. Also, like, do you think it's like super weird how they like show up to his apartment and it's like fucking baller and he's like, "Oh yeah, my mom was like the heiress to a multi-million-dollar old money family," and it's just like, okay.
There's a lot that's weird and like didn't need to exist in the book. So yes, I do think
I'm glad. Is that reassurance to me as the reader that he will be able to financially provide for her?
But the thing is, she's like a boss babe or whatever. So
yeah, it's like I feel like you guys are probably doing like okay.
Yeah. And then also another thing like that, it was like adjacent to that scene that I thought was stupid is like whenever he shows up to her apartment, he's like, "Okay, I'll pick you up at 7 sharp or whatever." And he like comes to pick her up and she's not dressed. She's in a robe. And it's like, hey,
he told you.
Are you trying to be annoying? Because that's really annoying. Additionally, we've talked about like things being kind of disjointed, but especially there was no smooth transition from them being supposed enemies to friends to then lovers. It was like all of a sudden they trauma dumped and they were trauma bonded and now they're getting married.
They were trauma banging as well. And
the 3 trauma bees, trauma barf, trauma bond, trauma bang.
That's correct. And then like just the whole thing with honestly with like, her ex, with Aaron's dad, with their relationship, it was all rushed. And so like with her ex, like they built up like this whole sense of like mysteriousness. Because it's like, oh, why did this lady come to America? And like she's like, oh, my ex, I can't even talk about him. And then we finally meet him. And he's like this piece of shit, like kind of ugly. And he's like, "I'd love to take you back." And she's like, "No," and that's it.
What I also thought was weird about that is she acted like she had to flee the country, like clearly no one would be on her side, but literally everyone was on her side,
They're like, we're
including
so
Daniel's
glad you're
literal
back.
brother. Yeah, Daniel's own brother is like, "No, Daniel, you fucked up. I'm on
Who
Lena's
is
side."
her sister is marrying.
Yes, yes, that's the groom. So I don't know why she was so weird about it. Like literally everyone was like, "No, like
I think she
he's
was
the
just
one who's
young
bad."
and dramatic.
She is dramatic. That is very true. Um, we also didn't really get a whole lot of things with them, like being office rivals. Like all we knew
No.
is that there was one, like Erin said this one thing that pissed her off, and ever since she literally will flee the room when he comes in. Like that's it.
And like enemies to lovers office romances, that is like my bread and butter. That is the shit I eat up. I love a good office romance. And
Oh
like it was
yeah.
done poorly.
Yeah, it was done really poorly.
I was disappointed. The dirty talk, I would give it like a 2 out of 10 for the entire book.
I don't even.
Anytime I don't want to read this, but I will for you as listeners. Anytime a man like who unprovoked says milk my cock should go to jail. And like there's a time and a place. There's not a time or a place for that. I don't love that
You just
phrase. And
don't
like
need to say it.
it was so wildly unprompted. Like there was not a whole lot else like going on, like to where he was, even kind of hinting at that type of dirty talk. And then he just busts that bad dad out. And it's like, damn, you didn't build me up or nothing.
It's definitely not the one to lead with. I'll tell you
That
what.
was a jump scare, Aaron.
Trigger warning. Um, so we also, I feel like we did kind of mention as it was weird and immature for her to be starving herself. My thing is, it's not like she had an eating disorder. She just chose to lose weight by casually starving herself for a week.
She's like, I'm
Um,
gonna try this.
yeah, she's like, have you heard of this new diet? It is called not eating.
Anorexia.
Yeah, so not not okay for her to like make that decision. But then again, like her being unconscious for like 30 minutes, also really
Maybe
concerning.
you're diabetic. I don't know.
And then they just like pretend like it didn't happen. Like Erin was like, "Why aren't you eating?" And she was like,
It's like, why are you here right now, Aaron?
yeah, she didn't let me
Right.
die.
Why are you here? I know what I'm doing, but like,
I know I'm starving myself and working on this freaking party planning. What are you doing?
what what are you doing? Step bro. And the biggest like what the fuck out of this entire book is, or I would really say the biggest warning to all you young single ladies out there, if a stranger, a perfect stranger, like you've had one interaction total with this man, insists on taking you out of the country to your cousin's wedding, say no.
Yeah.
Say no. Maybe go on a date first. Like maybe like look at his apartment once or twice with friends, other people there. Don't go out
Well,
of
yeah,
country with a man you don't know.
for sure. Especially whenever he's been like
Like
persistent.
adamant.
Yeah, he's like, "No, I'm taking you to Spain. You and me against the world."
Do you
Agreed.
want to get married tomorrow? Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's exactly what happened. They got back and he's like, "Yeah, we're marrying each other now." So I agree. That is a very fair, like it wasn't even like in the proposal, literally they know each other. Like
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is Sandra Bullock's assistant. Like they know each other for years. Like
It
they
makes
go
sense.
to Alaska together on a plane. Yeah, that makes sense. You don't like this man that you've like declared Satan, who you hate because he said something rude to you. Um, insists on taking you out of the country. I don't like that.
No, I don't like it. I don't like
Yeah.
it. I don't
Really,
know.
yeah. I feel like it would have made more sense if they had more interactions as
For sure.
rivals.
For sure.
Like
Or if
Yeah.
it's like they were friends that turned enemies, that turned back to friends, that became lovers. Absolutely.
Oh, that would be even better, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's like the
But
perfect
even if they didn't
scenario.
start off as friends, as long as they were actually like having interactions with each other outside of the workplace and like
You didn't go to like a male prostitution show with him once and then was like,
you didn't purchase his company for the evening and commit a crime.
it's fine.
Anyways, so we're going to kind of dive into the tropes that exist in this book. So of course there's enemies to lovers. And I put enemies in quotes because really they were just like a couple people who didn't like each other. They did not have much interaction, and she just didn't like him because he was arrogant, and so that made them enemies? Question mark. So yeah, didn't love that one. It was very half-assed, and it was like kind of the main like setup for the book. So if you're gonna half-ass anything, it should not have been that specific trope.
The fake dating trope was a big one, obviously. I typically love the fake dating trope.
I
I
do
think
too.
that's hilarious. It's always funny and like something bad always happens
Oh
and
yeah.
it's the best. And like, I mean, it was fine, but it's just like they were fake dating for like 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Like in their
They
office,
went
like
on two
obviously,
fake dates together.
yeah, and it's like the first one, nobody even knew about it.
Yeah.
Like that there was no point. And like I get like they needed it for her family's wedding and whatever, but then it's like they just so quickly fell in love. Like
Yeah.
it
And
wasn't
it's
even
like,
like I
okay,
despise this. And it's like, no, this is all right.
right. The whole time she was just lukewarm about it. And like, let's just imagine that the wedding portion was a larger portion of the novel and it was more spread out. I think even that would have been a better use of the time that we had in the story, because like that's when they were like officially like fake dating, because they were
Mhm.
like putting on an act in front of her family. And so for that to be like basically the shortest part of the book,
Yeah,
I think it really like kind of self-sabotaged what could have been so much better.
I agree.
The one bed trope, I do also love the one
They
bed trope.
actually did that one really well. I like
This
that one a
one, yeah,
lot.
nailed it, because there wasn't always one bed. There was another bed for Aaron to stay in, but he literally broke it.
I think he did it on purpose
Oh
too.
yeah, he's like, I could sit on that and smash it to
He's
pieces.
like, I know
Absolutely.
for a fact if I bring her down with me onto this, it is going to break.
I'll add that extra 80 pounds because she's apparently a tiny, teeny tiny little thing. But yeah, the one bed trope
Amazing.
is amazing. I loved it. It's perfect. Great job on that one.
Um, Another one was the miscommunication trope, which is like up there with the pregnancy trope with me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. This one was not well done either. Because the
Yeah.
whole book was just one giant miscommunication, like to the bitter end. We like
We got to see it through.
till she shows up in Seattle and goes through 50 hospitals finding the man of her dreams was their miscommunication.
Mm.
And like we said, it's just the whole thing started with a conversation that she most likely misconstrued. She didn't even hear the whole thing, and like ends with her be like, "Yeah, I'm quitting my job because this man was mean to me." And like all in between was just a whole bunch of nonsense
Yeah. There were miscommunications throughout and
about
about
the
different things.
miscommunications.
Yeah, it was very frustrating. And even though Aaron was actually after a certain point was actually communicating with her and was like, no, like I straight up want to be with you, and I have for a while.
He's
And
like, I
she
wonder if he's still
I
pretending.
think that yeah, we're just acting still, and he's really good.
He's really good.
He's really committed, and yeah, she's kind of dense.
She's a little dumb. It's like you're in a room by yourself and he's like telling you that. Like he ain't pretending.
She's like,
Yeah,
wow,
he
he
doesn't have
doesn't.
to do that.
He's a great character even for a second. Like, wow, the camera's always
You
rolling
just
for Aaron.
don't quit.
So
So
that was
yeah.
frustrating. Frustrating to read. Um,
But that kind of like wraps up the book. So like I said, not the worst thing I've ever read, definitely not the best. She is coming up with a sequel to this story, and it's called The American Roommate Experiment, and it does come out, I believe, in September, which will be about Rosie and, surprise, her cousin Luca, who she said she wanted to date.
Yeah. And they're like, no, he's a loser. But yeah, we will be reading that book, and
I will be reading it.
doing an episode about that, and we can kind of compare like the progress.
But join us next week. So next week's going to be one of the last episodes for a couple weeks because I'm getting married.
Yay!
So join us next week as we do another Goodreads bad reviews for the Shadow and Bone series by Leigh Bardugo. I am so stoked. Excited to read the 1-star reviews for this book. We've considered writing our own.
Yeah. And I will.
And I will be posting it.
We will be going into our hiatus on a high note because this episode, you guys don't want to miss this one. If anything else, listen to Goodreads bad reviews for Shadow and Bone. I'm so excited. I'm as excited for that as I am for your wedding.
Me too. Dude, it's gonna be so good. But we will return again on September 12th. Where we will be covering It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which is one of my all-time favorite rom-com novels.
It's so good.
We're starting off the Bellinger Sisters series. It will be followed by Hook, Line, and Sinker. So we'll be covering both, but just a little bit of a break in between.
Yeah, and I do want to say that when we come back from that break on September 12th, we will officially be the Sisters
Warden. That is correct.
So, yes, we've been lying to you all up until this point.
We're actually not related yet.
But we will be soon. And I'm very excited. And I am so excited for the next few episodes that we have planned. And then also in October, we are planning to do some spooky installments.
Super spooky installments all month long.
Yes, everyone's looking forward to Spooktober. And we will see you next week with our mini-sode. And as always,
let's get lit.